heard about Effie Gray when I first started working on the Pre-Raphaelites more than 20 years ago. She was this figure who moved between Ruskin's world and then into Millais' world. She was married to both of them. And so I was aware of her as somebody who intrigued me because there was so little written about her. And I wondered what it was like for her to be part of one story and then part of this other story. And I really wanted to understand how she'd come to London, why she left Ruskin, what she did with the rest of her life after she left her first husband, and what it was like married to Millais, who became this extraordinary figure in the Victorian art world, a real prince of the Victorian art world. He was made a baronet by Queen Victoria in 1885, and so she became Lady Millais towards the end of her life. And all those things that she'd hoped to do as a young girl when she married Ruskin were finally fulfilled when she became the wife of Millais. So the film finishes at that moment when Effie has made a decision, and she knows she has to go. And we leave her there. But what I have done in my book is to follow her life, follow her for the next 40 years, follow her back to Scotland, and then reunite her with Millais, and read all those letters that were passing between them in those difficult months when they couldn't see each other, when she held him at arm's length, and then when they can be married in July 1855, and then they stick together. They are there for 40 years and they have 8 children, and he is an extraordinarily successful artist, and she is this wonderful hostess, and she throws the most fabulous parties, and they build a house in Kensington which is everything she dreamed of. And then we start to see, how does she make that work? Through the letters, through her diaries, her anxieties, her worries about her own girls. What are they going to do? How are they going to cope with this sort of taint of the annulment that still hangs over them? Effie cannot be presented at court again. She cannot meet the Queen after she has left Ruskin, because, according to the Queen, she will not be in the same room as any woman who has 2 husbands still living, which means that although Effie does become Lady Millais, she can't go to a lot of the parties that her husband goes to. It's her husband who takes her girls out into society on those very difficult occasions when the Queen is going to be present. And so there's always this sense of anxiety underlying what Effie does. She wants to get it right for her girls. Effie was a very striking woman. Even as a very young woman, even as a girl, she was the centre of attention at parties. She was the sort of girl that all the young men wanted to dance with. When she was at school, some of her older relatives thought she was a little too forward. She'd learnt to be a hostess as a teenager because her mother was often in confinement, having another baby and another baby and another baby. And so Effie, as the eldest daughter, was keeping house in Bowswell. And so there's a sense that she grows up fast, and she's got a great figure, and she dances well, and she plays music well, and she has presence. And this is something that allows her to sweep through London society when she goes down to stay with Ruskin before they're married, and she gets introduced to all these amazing, fascinating characters, poets and artists and writers, and politicians, and respectable, independent people that really enjoy her company. She is good to sit next to her at a dinner party. And she uses these skills constantly through her life to try and smooth the path of her husbands, to try and get them the sort of patronage they need to make a success of their careers. She is the key to their success in many ways. She is their networker, she's their marketing manager, she is the person who makes sure they are in the right place at the right time, at the right parties, that they remember the names of the people they're talking to. And she just does a little bit of research in advance as to who's going to be there, who she should invite to a dinner, who might be useful for them. Because both Ruskin and Millais have to rely on their wits, they have to rely on patronage, they have to rely on selling themselves. And Ruskin in particular is very poor at that. He doesn't like entertaining, he doesn't like being shown off. He stands at parties with his back to the wall and tries to ignore as many people as possible. So, Effie is the opposite. She loves circulating, she loves going to balls, she loves the theatre. There's this great sense of life in her, and that is what constantly comes out of her of her letters and her diaries and what people say about her, even if they don't like her very much. And some women particularly didn't like her. They thought she was a bit too flirtatious, a bit too forward. But that was what gave her this sort of special charisma, this character, the thing that got Millais hooked when he was sitting and drawing her again and again and again. This light that comes out of her.